Well, hi, everybody. I think we'll just get started. I first of all want to say to our audience, I hope you are all staying safe and well during this craziness. When COVID-19 hit, small businesses were very challenged to literally throw out the playbook and think outside the box. And that might have meant pivoting to digital, driving sales through social media, or partnering with other small businesses in order to thrive. And we've seen a combination of all of those. So now it's 7 months later with brick and mortar locations, many of them still temporarily closed, and in-person events continuing to be canceled or postponed. It's really just as important as ever for small businesses to truly reevaluate their business models, reposition their brands, and re-strategize their revenue streams. So I am so excited because we're going to have a really thoughtful discussion today on how small businesses can really pivot during COVID and beyond. So I'm super excited to be joined by a panel of 5 powerhouse entrepreneurs who are really skillfully navigating this unprecedented period. And they're also very optimistic, which I love. Like, look at their smiling faces as they start to plan for the new normal post-pandemic. So please welcome Sonja Rasula, founder of Care Package and Unique Markets. Marissa Hermer, owner of Olivetta and the Draycott. Jess, Rona, actress, comedian, and founder of Jess Rona Grooming. Patty Delgado, the CEO of Hija de Tu Madre, and Mattie James, influencer. So thank you all for joining. It's really great to see you all, and really excited to have you all in the room with such great businesses. So what I want to do is really talk initially about pivoting, which a lot of the discussions that I've been having are all about pivoting. And small businesses are very agile, and their ability to pivot during these times is really important. So I couldn't think of a better person to start with than Sonja. COVID-19 has turned Unique Markets' business model of physical shopping experiences truly on its head, canceling all in-person events until further notice, and really shifting the business to digital. Unique Markets is, of course, not alone. In fact, according to a recent Mastercard study, 76% of small businesses across North America are saying that the pandemic has prompted them to become more digital. So Sonja, can you tell us about some of the ways you've pivoted to digital to bring your community, and you truly have an amazing community, together virtually during this time? And then has moving online helped you reach a wider audience and grow your business more rapidly?
Yeah. So like you said, my whole business is based on in-person gatherings, gathering thousands of people, in fact. So there's no hope for us. So we did pivot a little bit slightly. We started doing, of course, a lot of virtual meetings. We were recording things, putting them up on YouTube. We launched a YouTube channel, which we had not done before, and recorded a second season of the podcast. Like, in all the different ways that we could go digital, we did. We started holding virtual markets as well. But really, I think we cultivated our community online. So yes, we cultivated Instagram, but I truly, really am a huge fan of email marketing. So we really cultivated that email list, because those are people who have given us something of value. They've given us their email address. And when I send an email, I know that it actually lands in the inbox. So we really started talking to our email list a lot more. And we're going to have a very specific plan for the holiday months, because of course what we do is markets, it's shopping. Everyone wants to shop. Everyone's asking us every day on the DMs if we're doing markets. So we will slowly be announcing stuff through email and Instagram soon. But for the last month or two, I did take a pause on doing as many things virtually. I was doing like a Zoom here, a Zoom there, recording a conference here. And it was actually kind of exhausting. So for me, I pressed pause so that I could really focus on what the business could look like in 2021 and start to put things into place for that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great because what we're hearing is this has been so tough on small businesses. And, with all the webinars and podcasts I've been doing and also direct to small business, that's one of the things we're hearing. So I love your thought about, taking a pause. But one of the things I do want to highlight that you said, Sonja, is email. I think a lot of small businesses are not necessarily keeping track of their customers. So when all this hit, they really didn't have the capability to use that as an amazing tool. So I think that's awesome that you had that. And it's something that we talk a lot about because keeping in touch with customers has been one of the top issues. So thanks so much for that. So Marissa, social distancing completely shut down the in-person dining side of your business for several months. I mean, of all the businesses, it's a tough one. But you recently partnered with Lapeer Hotel to safely bring the Olivetta experience outdoors for the summer, which I think is really cool. And can you talk through some of the specific challenges you faced and then how you really pivoted your business strategy in the COVID-19 era?
Yes, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, the first major challenge was that we weren't actually allowed to operate inside. The Draycott, our restaurant in the Palisades, actually has about 100 covers outside. So while we never designed that restaurant for a pandemic, it lends itself well to outdoor dining. Olivetta on Melrose Avenue is a very different story. We don't have any outdoor dining. And also both restaurants are not really designed for takeaway. It's all about the experience. You give us 2.5 hours and we take you away to a magical place for both restaurants. So when we were forced to shut down inside, that proved to be impossible. When we realized that this pandemic was going to last a lot longer than any of us ever thought, we realized we wanted to open up the brand somewhere else in an outdoor space for 2 reasons. Number one, we have to keep the brand alive. Number two, our Melrose Avenue site is collecting dust and rent on Melrose Avenue that we need to pay. And number three, we have to keep our teams working, our restaurant families working. I mean, they depend on their paychecks, but they're also artists. And when an artist isn't working, they're not happy. And the mental health challenge right now that we are all having on a global level is very real. So we looked to our neighbors because we wanted to keep it local. That's where our customer base is. And the Lapeer Hotel has a huge outdoor space near the pool and also a rooftop. And it was a very simple conversation because the truth is all of hospitality is suffering right now. Room rates were really low there. No one was going out to eat. And so we were able to partner with them. Their room rates have skyrocketed. Their valet has skyrocketed. And people want to come. So it has proved incredibly successful. I think the other challenge, without stating the obvious, obviously not indoor dining, but also is health and safety. I mean, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of my friends who don't actually want to go to a restaurant right now. I mean, we are being advised by the CDC that if you go to the grocery store one day, to hang back from a restaurant. So it's a real challenge. Now, I can't speak for all restaurants, but the restaurants that I have been to, and certainly us, are doing a very good job. Now we are in the business of health and wellness. We have to keep our customers safe. We have to keep our team safe. I have to keep myself safe. If I'm in 2 restaurants a day, I'm going to make sure we are not only following all the guidelines, but over and above. And actually, to Sonja's point, I think the third challenge was our customers' trust, because not just health and safety, but just trust in us, in any business. And so as a family restaurant, we have been on site the whole time. I mean, we are not a chain. They trust us. We're part of the fabric of the community. And as a result, our customers do trust us. And actually, to Sonja's point, we have picked up a lot of our communication as well, our email list. I send a weekly email or an email every couple weeks about what we're doing, not only just the new menus and things like that, but just like stories of the team. And that makes the customers feel more comfortable with us, that we're just not, a restaurant, that we're sort of a face and a family and we care.
No, Marissa, I mean, I love so much of your story because, as I mentioned before we started, I'm a real foodie and I love food. But what I think is really amazing is that for many small businesses, particularly restaurants, I think a lot of people like freeze and like, well, what do I do now? I love the fact that you look to another business to partner with and kind of thought outside the box. And I've been in small business my whole career, and what I love about it is just how amazingly creative entrepreneurs are. So many kudos to that. I think that's awesome. So Jess, COVID-19 has greatly impacted your business as well. You started Jess Rona Grooming out of your home, and you were actually, I believe, in the midst of opening your first brick and mortar location in Los Angeles when COVID derailed your plans. And one of the things I think our audience are going to be really interested in is how have you handled that setback? And what advice can you share for small business owners who are experiencing COVID-induced delays or just basic disappointments right now? Would love to get your perspective.
Oh, yeah. So how am I handling it? Ask me every day because it's probably going to be a different answer. And I mean, we're all human beings and we have ups and downs. And I think all of us entrepreneurs have to be gentle and kind with ourselves and just know like, okay, today I'm having not a great day and that's okay. And I leave space for it and I don't try to push it away. I just accept. And I think a lot of all of this is dealing with acceptance. And that is like the hardest lesson for me. Because I'm sure all of you can agree we're driven, we're business people, we don't accept things. We want things the way we want them. And it's really a challenge. So what I've been doing is focusing on gratitude. I have this book called The Magic. It's a little hippy dippy, but it's basically a gratitude workbook that I do every single morning. And I just center myself. I'm gentle with myself. It's all about your mindset as a business owner. So I really focus on meditation and self-care because when you're good, like you can handle anything. And that's something that I just want to highlight a little bit because sure, I can tell you how I do things every day, my to-do lists and all the way I'm actually actively doing things. But honestly, the most powerful things that I've done have been things that I've been doing within. And I know that what you focus on expands. So I focus hard. It's an active focusing on what I want and not getting sucked into the lack and the things I don't want. Because the minute I focus on, I don't have enough clients, my shop, I can't afford the minute I focus on the negative, all of that grows into a big monster. And so when I focus on the things that I do have, even if they're teeny tiny, that's the real pivoting for me. The pivoting is actively being a puppeteer with your thoughts and pivoting into a positive mindset. And that helps me in my life, with my relationships, in my business, as a leader. It helps in so many ways. And that's where I do most of my work. Also,
I mean, it's amazing what you just said because, with all the work that we do, whether it's at Mastercard or all the work that Jacqueline does at Create and Cultivate, so often we're focused on the tactics to run a business.
Totally.
And you're presenting a view of the depth of how important it is. And as a follower of Sonja, as I was listening, I was thinking of you.
Me too. I was listening to everyone like, what are they going to tell me? I know I'm going to learn something.
Yeah. Well, no, but I mean, if anyone who follows Sonja and looks at all it's just, she makes me smile and laugh because you find her in like, where in the world is Sonja? And you see her. But I think that taking care of yourself, business owners, that's so important. Even look, all of us that are focused on helping small businesses today have been so inundated because of COVID. So I love what you said. I think it's really cool. Thank you for that. So Patty, during the pandemic, manufacturers around the world had to temporarily shut down, which obviously significantly impacted supply chains for so many businesses. And I'm sure you were no exception to that. With disrupted supply chains and a lot of temporary factory shutdowns, How has Hija de tu Madre been impacted, and what are some of the pros and cons of being a direct-to-consumer business in the current COVID climate? Would love to hear from you on that.
Thank you so much, Ginger. I think we're really lucky that we're a bootstrapped e-commerce business, so there's a lot of flexibility. We're really agile. So at the beginning of the lockdown, it was always kind of in the back of my head that we need to start doing more production in-house, and we did. So we actually luckily, we ran out of space in our old HQ, and we moved into a 5,000 square foot warehouse here in downtown. And I really took it upon myself to start doing more screen printing and more production in-house. We used to rely heavily a lot with vendors in China and Mexico, even locally. But like, as you mentioned, just the turnaround time on production was way longer. A lot of our vendors started focusing more on like masks and like protective gear. So it really kind of pushed us to be more responsible of our own in-house production. And I think it's worked out for the best. As I'm sure like a lot of y'all have noticed, athleisure really took off. And so at the beginning of the pandemic, top of my list was like, we need sweatpants for these girls. So I think it's been really important for us to really listen to the trends and listen to the market. We're a Latina lifestyle brand, so we're in accessories, stationery, and apparel. Obviously, I can't expect these customers to buy gold hoops and necklaces like they used to. They're buying more athleisure and comfort wear. And so really listening to the needs of my customer and adopting our business model and just like all around business decisions based around the current climate.
Yeah, and I think what's really neat, Patty, is your pivot. So, you kind of saw that supply chain was going to be a problem, production was going to be a problem, and how could you take more control of that over yourself? So I think that's really awesome. So Mattie, in the midst of COVID, influencers like yourself have transitioned into homefluencers. I love that word. And you really started creating more home, food, and family content versus as much on the fashion, beauty, and travel side. So would love to get your thoughts on what kind of content is really resonating with your audience right now. And then have you seen any spikes in engagement that have surprised you? And because of those, have you seen your following increase as a result?
Absolutely, Ginger. I think that home is where it's at. I think everyone, regardless of your position at work or in your business, everyone's at home a little bit more right now, if not all the time. And, for me, it really did resonate with my audience because in my story, I had just had my third baby. We were like 6 months into our new home when COVID hit. So it really was a natural transition for me. But I think even for other influencers who are peers of mine, I noticed that we all had to really shift our story and talk about home life. And I think what I realized is the partnerships that I was able to now land with brand partners, it really did have to authentically speak to that, like most people aren't traveling as much, again, if at all, most people have now made the space in their schedule for those home projects, whether it's organizing their pantry, getting their bedroom closet together, finally finishing that basement. And then even as a parent, even talking about, some kids are at home and doing the school thing at home. So it was really important to me to make sure that I pivoted even the language I used day to day. I'm just not out and about anymore. And I had to be really careful that I was authentic to my story and being truthful first and foremost, but then making sure that anything that I told my audience, whether it was organic content about what I'm currently doing, or even in partnership with the brand, that I was really speaking to home life. It just really has skyrocketed noticeably. And even on the other side of my business, because I teach as well, so many more people want to take online courses. They want an online masterclass. They're making that space to learn because people are a little bit more still right now. And so as long as you can speak to that new stillness within their homes and whatnot, I think that that's where I've noticed that I have finally been able to kind of like even grow my audience to, 6 figures now in my follower number. And I feel like a lot of that has been because I've really, really done my best to kind of, just kind of see eye to eye with my followers. And right now it is noticeably different.
No, that's great. And they probably, look at you, Mattie, and say, wow, if it's okay that she's hanging out and focusing on home, it's certainly okay for me. And, the other, I think, advantage, obviously, from an influencer perspective, you really focused on digital way before COVID. And a lot of small businesses, there's like 30% of small businesses don't even have a digital presence in the United States. So I think you were really well positioned there. So I have a question for everyone. One topic that's near and dear to my heart. Even before COVID hit, small businesses were prime targets of cyber attacks, and these can be very costly. In 2019, cyber attacks cost small business on average $200,000. And we know that probably close to 50% of all cyber attacks are happening to small business. Now as small businesses are rapidly pivoting to digital, and there's been a much stronger shift to e-commerce, they're even more vulnerable. So I was curious for all of you, what measures have you put in place to prevent a virtual attack, and how much of your budget is currently going towards cybersecurity? So anyone chime in?
Oh my God, nothing.
Nothing.
I know. I haven't even I don't really know much about this. I'm like, oh my God, is this a thing? I don't feel like I'm going to be attacked in a cyber attack. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is this a thing?
I feel like because I am on the internet most of the time, I feel like, I think as an influencer, I think I've just taken little things like making sure you do I think it's the 2-step verification, I think, like on your social media things so no one hacks you or anything like that. I think I've been really active in making sure that, I'm paying attention, to little things like my password, different things like that. I don't really have any like cyber attack issues. I feel like as of late, I think maybe I deal with trolls, but I think that's anybody who is on social media and on the internet. But I have been really, really fortunate. I think it really is about just looking at things like your settings. I don't put a whole bunch of my budget into it. I have a small team. There's, 4 of us total on my team, but we're really, really streamlined with our processes and making sure that if we notice anything funny with people signing into accounts and different things like that, we're changing our passwords. We're making sure that everyone's clear on what the SOPs are when it comes to, content creation, whether it's on a social media platform or email marketing and things like that. But I personally haven't had any really severe issues, but I don't think anybody's looking to kind of like steal my Instagram post idea either.
Okay. No, that's great, Mattie. And Jess, look, you're not alone. I did some things with Create and Cultivate recently, and I got so many follow-up emails from people like, I didn't know this was a thing. And it is a thing. So Jess, reach out to me afterwards. We'll talk to you. But how about the rest of you? Kind of what have you done in this area, if anything?
I'm probably one of the only people in the world who I'm not using that much Zoom right now. We're still a restaurant and we see our customers. I don't talk to them. I haven't quite figured this out yet. The truth is we haven't actually thought about it, but now that you've raised this point, as we use a lot of third parties. We use a third party for our reservation system. We use resi.com. We use a third party for our online POS across the different restaurants. We use something called Breadcrumb and Toast. As we've been talking, I just got in a note, some drop down, that there's been a company where there's been, 200,000 customers' information has been released. So this clearly is an issue. And actually, while we don't manage this in-house because we just don't have those systems. We work with third parties that do. And so actually I'm going to follow up with them and see what systems they've put into place, because it's quite important if, we're using that third party, what are they doing?
Marissa, you just brought up a really important point, and especially if you have third parties that are integrated into the work you're doing, and especially in the restaurant business, that's very prevalent. That's a really important point. And, look, this isn't to scare people, but I think a lot of people think that cyber attacks happen to the big guys. They don't happen to small businesses, and they do. How about, I guess, Sonja, Patty, just any thoughts you have around this?
We use, I can't tell who's,
Go ahead.
I haven't talked about it yet. I'm going to probably be addressing this in a minute or two, but I did launch an e-commerce business. So we are relying on obviously our third-party vendor, who is Shopify and Stripe, to put those practices into place. Because I know you, Ginger, and I'm very familiar with Mastercard and all of the amazing back-end work that Mastercard does, I do know about this subject. However, I will admit that I have put the responsibility on the third parties, and I guess I'm just crossing my fingers and hoping that it's okay.
Okay. All right. No, but look, I mean, the fact remains is as long as people start by thinking about it, and I always feel good if I can at least get people thinking about it, because, to your point, a lot of people do that, right? But some people say hope is not a strategy. And what we don't want, especially with your new site, which we're going to talk about in a minute, I think that's really important. How about you, Patty? Because you have people probably ordering online. I'm just curious to get your perspective on this topic, because it's really important.
Yeah, so I think for us, it's really important to do our due diligence, especially when we're working with so many third parties. And we do collect information, right? Like, we're on all different types of digital advertising channels. We're collecting emails, we're collecting phone numbers. So it's also really important for us to be compliant. There's like so much compliance that goes into collecting a phone number and making sure that we're up to date with like FTC regulations and making sure that we're not compromising our customers' information. So we definitely do spend a lot of time working with the best third parties to ensure our customer and our business safety.
Yep. No, that's great. Thanks a lot, Patty. I appreciate that. And, thanks for all your comments, everyone. And, again, for everyone out there, I think it's important to look at this topic. There's a couple key types of cyber attacks that happen to small businesses. It's really an important topic. So thanks to everyone for that. So now I want to talk a little bit about repositioning. And Sonja, you, I think, have, because I follow you, you've done really some amazing things lately. And with in-person events on hold, you actually recently launched a care package. And so this is a subscription box that you have launched, and I think it's really cool. It actually helps support small businesses, and especially women-owned and minority-owned businesses. BIPOC, LGBTQ. I think it's fantastic. And can you tell us about Care Package, the inspiration behind it, and how it's helping to support small businesses, especially your own, during this time? Because I think it's an amazing idea you had.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I guess I do have a business again now. So the whole idea behind Unique Markets was to feature and support small independent businesses, much like Patty's, designers, artists, makers who are usually bootstrapped, independent, own their businesses. And because we can no longer do that, I thought about how I could support all of these small businesses in a virtual space, aside from doing virtual markets, which are okay, but I don't think are actually that impactful. And it's really about impact for me. So I came up with this idea. My mom sends me care packages. No joke. I am a woman in my 40s, y'all, and my mom sends me care packages.
That's so good.
Random stuff. But, it's the thought that counts. So she was sending me care packages when COVID hit, and it occurred to me that I could essentially take all of these small businesses that I know and love and put them into a box. So we launched just last month. Phase one is, yes, a subscription box, as you mentioned, Ginger, but the larger phase is coming up, which is really taking over the gift box industry with care packages. And the idea is that everything in these care packages are curated by me. They're all small independent businesses, and over 75%, because this year has also opened my eyes a lot to impact and legacy. I've been an entrepreneur for almost 13 years now. This year, it became very clear to me that I wanted to really help all of my fellow female founders, women-owned businesses, and BIPOC businesses. So over 75% of the brands that are in all of the boxes are minority-owned or female-owned. And so I'm super stoked about that. We have a female founder box where everything is just female founders. We have a Black-owned businesses box. I'm really like taking this idea and I'm running with it, and I'm super excited.
I love that. I want one.
Don't you guys? Isn't that cool?
That's very cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's the epitome of doing well by doing good, pivoting, not just doing it for yourself, but to help all these other businesses. I just think it's amazing. So, I mean, really, congratulations on that. I love it. So, Marissa, although your restaurants are probably taking a bit of a financial hit right now, you're giving back by donating meals to those in need, including local hospital workers, the elderly, and those who are unable to shop for themselves. Like, oh my gosh, that is just, I get the chills even talking about it. Why is paying it forward so important to you and your businesses? And I guess the other question is, do you feel that giving back will become more of a permanent part of your business strategy post-pandemic?
Yes, I'll work backwards. Sorry, I've also changed I ran out of battery, so I'm near the outlet and I'm doing this weird, funny lunge right now. So
you still look fine. So
the joys of Zoom. Okay. Yes, we will continue. It will be part of our strategy forever moving forward, because it's been the silver lining to this pandemic for me and for our teams to know that we are facilitating and have created a platform for people to give back to the heroes and to the frontline workers. It came about we sort of became accidental philanthropists. When our restaurants were shut down the first time, as a restaurant, we were closed overnight, and yet we had a huge pantry and freezers and refrigerators full of food. So we fed our teams and we fed their families. And then we still had more food. And I had a friend who's a nurse at a local hospital who was saying, it's a madhouse in here. I can't even take a break for lunch. When I'm home, I'm too exhausted to even grab dinner. I had all this food in our restaurant, and I thought, well, here we go. I'm going to just package it up and I'll drive it over tomorrow. And as I was on the way, a girlfriend of mine called me, and we were just sort of bemoaning about life in, March, which was awful. Now I think we're getting a handle on things, of where things are, but then it was just all unknown. And I said I had to run because I was going to deliver some food to the ICU unit. And the next text message I got was her with a picture of the front and back of her credit card, and a text message saying, I want you to keep doing this and put $2,500 on this card and work out the cost of the meals, the food, work out the cost of you pay your team to do this. So everyone from the prep cooks to, the buying the food for our farmers. And I was so overwhelmed, and I sort of didn't really know what to do. And I said, well, I can't do that. I can't take money for this. And she said, don't be an idiot. Yes, you can. And actually more people will do it, because right now I'm being told I need to sit on the couch and watch Netflix, and that's not good enough. And I want to do something to help, but I'm not an essential worker, and I'm not a hospital worker or anything. And I want to help. And so here's how I can help. And so do it. And that was sort of the beginning. And now we've raised over $50,000, and it truly gives us such joy to be able to give back. But equally, it's our heroes are more nourished knowing, yes, it's a lunch or a dinner, but they also know that people around the world are thinking about them. And I think that idea of community, even a global community now more than ever, when our country probably also feels equally divided, is really, really important. And it fed paid our teams in a time when we weren't even open. We have set up a takeaway service. Did set up a takeaway service, but it took a little while to do that. And so in those initial weeks, they were able to make some cash because of the support of our community near and far. And it was, it all sort of just happened very organically, but I'm so grateful that it did. And now, spreading happiness now is the most important thing we can do when there's just so much doom and gloom.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I actually love what your friend said, that, sitting on the couch watching Netflix isn't good enough. And I really love that. And, for those of us that have the honor of serving small businesses every day, even for those of us who do this all day long, it's sometimes tough to go to bed at night knowing there's so much more to be done. So thank you for what you're doing. It's incredible. So, Jess, social media views and engagement have actually increased over 30% during COVID-19. So obviously a tremendous opportunity there. Of course, your business does thrive on in-person interactions, but you've pivoted to share grooming tutorials on your Instagram account and YouTube channel, which I think is really cool. What advice can you share on how to adjust a small business's social strategy to best serve customers during COVID-19, even without the in-person contact? I would love to get your thoughts.
I have so many thoughts. For social media, I did some tutorials because I was listening to, there was a frenzy when COVID happened in March. There was a frenzy of, oh no, I need to groom my dog right now. My dog is matted and hairy, and what am I gonna do? And I got a big old wave of that. So I addressed that. And that's what people can do in general with their social medias, is listen to their followers, just like Mattie said, and just kind of gauge. You can do a poll, you can say like, what would you like from me? And also, if you come from a place of being of service to someone, that is just a really great place to start. As how can I be of service to someone else, and what can I do to help people? And that is somewhere that's how I started with the tutorials, is like, okay, people need to know how to groom their dogs. But also, just as far as like kicking up your Instagram or your social media a notch, I play with iMovie a lot, and I make fun videos. I'll buy music from iTunes and like tinker and play around and tap into my creativity. And I think if you are finding joy through that and you're getting a little fun out of that, I think people want to follow any joy right now. So if you're feeling joy while you're making a video or doing something, and you're posting something that is joyful, people will be attracted to it. Did that answer your question?
It does, and I hope that people have sent you some of the results of their work.
They
and
have.
I hope some of the dogs weren't too embarrassed.
There was even a woman who was in Canada, and she had me do a Zoom private lesson with her so that I could guide her on how to groom her own dog. She's like, this is
oh, that's a great idea. I think that's a new business somewhere. We can talk about that later. That's great. No, thank you so much, Jess. That's awesome. So Patty, social purchasing was a major trend to watch before COVID-19, but the pandemic actually accelerated the shift exponentially. An interesting survey found that 41% of consumers are currently shopping via social media. So, that number continues to grow. How have you adapted your selling strategy to drive some of your purchases via social? And what advice can you share for fellow small business owners on how to do that successfully?
Yeah, great question. So since day one, we've always been like very digitally aggressive across every channel. So I don't think that has changed, but I think what has changed is our messaging. As I'm sure y'all are aware, 2020 has been a dumpster fire of tragedy and injustice. So I think that for us, we're still posting the same amount, but it's the messaging. Like I can't say buy this, buy this, buy this like I used to, because it's tone deaf and insensitive. And I think for us, it's really important to be mindful of like our customers' mental health. our customers have lost their jobs, so I can't really like shove, buy one, get one on socks like I used to.
Yeah.
So I think for us, we've kind of shifted the focus on like selling content to more like mindful and empathetic content, just for the sake of being empathetic. And I think really focusing our social strategy more on like a human level as opposed to like more advertising. And I think that's been extremely beneficial for brand awareness and just overall like brand customer intimacy.
No, I think that's really interesting. And I love your thoughts around, kind of like how we present ourselves is really important, because I think there's people out there that are doing amazing things, like, what you just heard from Marissa, but then there's also people out there that are taking advantage of things and not representing what they're doing in a way that really helps people feel good. And I love the way you approach that. So I think that's fantastic. And then one other following questions that I had with these, the things that you're doing is, do you find that you've been able to measure the impact of social? Because one of the things I hear from small businesses is they don't get to measure it very well. What are your thoughts around measurement?
Yeah, so I think analytics are so important for an e-commerce business and figuring out where your traffic is coming from. So for example, right now, our number one traffic source is direct. So people just like Googling hijatumadre.com. Second is social. So that's a lot of our business right there that's being driven from Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And so I think for us, it's really important for us to kind of like spread out our, like not put all our eggs in one basket, and making sure like everything's kind of running as it should on this wheel, making sure like our social channels are good and are still driving a good amount of traffic. Email marketing is working, text marketing is working, because all of these sources run together. If I only was relying on Instagram for as a marketing channel, I would probably be screwed, because the day Instagram shuts down, my entire business shuts down. So it's really important to watch all these different traffic channels and how they're impacting your business.
No, that's great. Thank you. So Mattie, in mid-April, Google searches for terms like online courses and free online courses reached historic highs, because, everyone was looking for something to do online. And they have yet to return to pre-pandemic levels. You quickly hopped on the trend by relaunching your popular Bossfluence classes. And I'm interested to get your thoughts. What's been the response from your community, and how have you kind of repositioned your brand to reintroduce these courses to your audience?
It's been mind-boggling, because the numbers, like you said, pre-pandemic to now. So I've been a full-time influencer since 2015, and teaching has always been something I've done, throughout my career. I've done everything from monthly master classes and, an official online course. But in 2018, 2019, my brand partnerships did really well. We had a lot going on at home, just growing our family. So I kind of like slowed down on teaching, just because like my income had supplemented on the other side. And I was like, okay, maybe people are just more interested in lifestyle content from me than they are teaching. And so 2020 hits, and really truthfully, I do love teaching. And now that I was at home more, I wasn't out and about and doing quite as much. I was like, well, you know what, let's just, jump on IG Live weekly. It was actually a really good idea for my husband. He's like, you love to run your mouth. Get on IG Live every Wednesday morning and just like run your mouth. Well, I started doing it casually here and there. But what happened is I would just show up really excited with like really like, just really like thoughtful points on like how to do something, whether it's like how to post more consistently or how to get a brand's attention, with your blog and Instagram content. And it kind of just exploded. I just was not expecting it at all. And so I then started a free Facebook group, and I would put a 24-hour replay of my IG Live in the Facebook group. that has now grown. I think it's only been like 3 months. It's grown to almost 5,000 members in there. And they're just in there. They're talking, they're engaging, they're supporting each other. And what I realized is that while the pandemic has been very intense for all of us, this has been a time where community really does just organically like explode if you give people a reason to kind of get together and congregate, you know? For me, a lot of the influencers that are learning from me are women of color, specifically Black women. And so a lot of them are either, you know, walking away from their jobs because they need to be home and be with their kids, they're being furloughed or anything like that. So if I can teach them, whether it's just 45 minutes from my IG Live to make a couple of extra $1,000 every month, I'm happy to be of service, and it's been really great. And so, you know, I've been slowly teaching paid classes here and there, but those weekly free IG Lives has been such a really, it's just exploded. I just feel like live video and online courses right now is really serving people to a level it hasn't before. And it's been really fun to see.
No, I love it. Thank you. So I want to try to get us through one more set of questions on resetting. And then want to do some rapid fire because I don't want this to end. You guys are so cool. So Sonja, with physical retail still in flux during COVID, industry insiders predict that low budget, short-term pop-ups are set to thrive in the coming months. And as someone who's no stranger to hosting pop-ups, what advice can you share for fellow small business owners on how to do it successfully as soon as it's safe to do so?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because the whole time, at least in Los Angeles, I can only speak to Los Angeles, but farmers markets have never closed. And so that's an interesting model because it's very similar to pop-up markets. You know, replace the food with fashion in the exact same way that farmers markets operate, and you can have a pop-up market. So I've been watching people all around the world, Australia, Canada. There was a giant pop-up that was held in San Francisco this past weekend. So I think it's exciting in that if you were someone who had a traditional brick and mortar, a lot of my retail owners are opening their stores. You know, granted, less people in at a time, but they're still reopening. I think there's a lot of room, however, for innovation in that, you know, multiple brands could get together to take over a parking lot. Multiple brands could contact elementary schools. Nothing is happening at the schools. I mean, at least in Los Angeles. Again, don't know about the rest of the world, but their, you know, playgrounds are outdoors. They're massive. So I think that there's going to be a lot of innovation in people creating these outdoor experiences. And I think it must, much like the restaurant world and the idea of creating basically parking lot restaurants, I think that is what is going to start happening. And it's exciting. I know that with Unique Markets, we are going to be announcing very shortly. We are going to be doing a holiday market in both Los Angeles and Portland, outdoors, of course, with a bunch of safety protocols. But again, looking to the farmers markets and how farmers markets have run and have done it safely all around the world, I think it's exciting. I also think for 2021, for all types of businesses, whatever business you're in, I think creating in-person experiences that can be safe and responsible are going to, like you said, absolutely thrive. If you take any of the restaurants and the patios, you know, I went out for dinner last night. It was like the first time in months to a patio, and it was exciting and it felt very safe. And there were lots of the patio was packed. So now granted, half the amount of tables they would normally have, but every single one of those tables was full. And so, you know, we're following the restaurant industry basically, and it's exciting.
Oh, that's great. Speaking of restaurant industry, Marissa, it's safe to say that COVID has ushered in a whole new dining experience. And a recent survey found that consumers overwhelmingly like curbside pickup, with 87% wanting restaurants to actually continue to limit in-person contact. So how have you shifted your business to drive more curbside pickup sales? And do you think it will become a bigger part of your business post-pandemic too?
Yeah, so the truth is when both the Draycott and Olivetta were shut, and before we had the Olivetta on Holiday, which is the name of our residency at the Le Pierre Hotel, we were doing quite a lot of curbside pickup and door-to-door delivery. No one wanted to leave their home, and there just wasn't really other options around. Actually, the Draycott, which is in the Pacific Palisades and much more of a the Draycott's been there for 2 years. There are not a lot of other options in the Palisades community. We were slammed. It was great for curbside pickup. West Hollywood, Olivetta had been open for 3 months prior to shutting down. So, and there are a lot of other options in West Hollywood. And so while it was sustained our business, it wasn't a runaway success. And now that Olivetta on Holiday, our residency at Le Pierre Hotel, is open, we probably on a normal night at Olivetta on Melrose, which is the original site that's now closed, we would do 300 covers a night. At Olivetta on Holiday, because we just have more seats, we're doing about 450 a night. And so as a result, we can't even manage takeout because our kitchen is slammed from the moment we open our doors, which is great, no complaints. Yeah. I get a lot of requests for takeout, but the truth is it just doesn't work out. The Draycott, we do still do a lot of takeout, and people like that. And the thing that we've done in the Palisades, just because it is a different community, is on long holiday weekends. So for example, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Memorial Day, Labor Day, we actually put together special barbecue kits, make this at home, that type of thing. And those fly because people actually want to be at home, and they are at home, well, all the time. But they might not want to feel like they're eating takeout. And so we've sort of pivoted the takeout concept for those special times when everyone's barbecuing. Okay, we'll do salads. Actually, it's, we'll prepare all the meat, we'll marinate it all. We'll, prepare all the veggie kebabs, but actually you can put it yourself on the barbecue. Mm-hmm. So it still is reminiscent of of the times where you've barbecued before, but and done it yourself, but it's still delivered to your door.
No, that's great. So I want to move to our rapid fire questions because we only have about 6 minutes left, and I want to start with Jess. So first question, the 3 qualities that got me where I am today are...
my drive, my passion, and my creativity.
Great. Patty?
I think it's taught me more grace. It's taught me how I really love hugging people. And it's taught me patience.
God, that's great. Mattie, 3 qualities that got me where I am today.
My village, my consistency, and my vision, just my imagination and my vision.
I love it. Sonja?
I would say my curiosity, my drive, definitely, just like Jess, and probably my ability to just keep going no matter what. I could be bleeding out of all limbs and I will get up and figure out a way to walk away.
And I totally believe that. That's great. And then Marissa, 3 qualities.
I think blind optimism, every time, always in the restaurant business, but certainly now. Grit and I think creativity.
That's great. So another, starting with Jess, COVID-19 has taught me.
Acceptance and patience. I'm still learning, though. They're not officially taught yet, though. But they will. I
love it.
And maybe.
I love it. Patty.
Okay, so I kind of already answered this one, but it's taught me a lot, okay? I think that definitely it's taught me to value my, just me time more. It's allowed me to value family time more. And just again, going back to empathy, a lot more empathy.
Great. Mattie, COVID-19 has taught me.
It's taught me gratefulness, just complete raw gratefulness I look back 6 months ago at those things I used to, take for, or let's say 8 months ago, those things I used to take for granted. And I am truly grateful for the smallest things nowadays.
That's great. Sonja.
I think I was going to say, something and I just changed the answer in my head. I was going to say, like, being okay with having zero expectations. As any entrepreneur knows, I used to expect, and now you can't expect anything. But I actually think I wanted to change that to just be more towards my self-empowerment. I realize now, I thought I could do anything before. Like the ego in me thought that I could do anything. I now understand that I really can throw obstacles our ways. Like we've had 1,000 obstacles this year and we're still here and we're all smiling. So it really is, I think that we can do anything. Really.
Great. And Marissa, COVID-19 has taught me.
COVID-19 has taught me, I was never good at taking me time. We have 3 young children and a couple of restaurants, and I like prioritize myself now, because otherwise the wheels will absolutely fall off and everything will collapse. And so I'm exercising a lot more, and I'm taking a lot more baths and walks and just like meditating. I mean, it's the year of Marissa. It's great.
Great. I love it.
And also obviously, and I guess in line with that is the importance of mental health, which is really what it's all about. But yes, digging deep and creativity. And I think also the importance of friendship, because I rely on my husband and I work together. And it's never been stressful before, but when you are responsible for 3 young children and your business is an absolute, kamikaze collapse, I've leaned on my friends more than ever before, and it's great.
Now that's awesome. Well, we're just about at time, so I won't get to ask you another rapid fire, but I want to take this opportunity to tell you, you guys are the most amazing, amazing women who have built these businesses, pivoted these businesses. It truly is amazing. And what a wonderful representation for all the people that are going to be watching this to feel the hope that they can not only get through COVID, but get beyond it strong. So I want to personally thank you. It's just been really a lot of fun. And I'm going to be following up with a lot of you because you've all got something that I think is really cool. But thank you so much for your time today. It's really been awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So great.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Take care, everyone. Stay safe.